All right, last call here for Theater A, extending Microsoft Fabric, build and deploy custom workloads with Madhu and Richin. We're about to start. Thanks.
Thank you. Can you all hear us? Can we just do a show of hands of how many of you have heard about the, custom workloads on Microsoft Fabric? Anybody? Okay, yeah. All right. Yeah, we just wanted to get a sense of, how we'll, tailor the conversation. So here we go. This is my peer Richin, and, we'll jump right in. I'm Madhu. So our agenda, because this is a demo session, will primarily focus on, demonstrating to you how to build a workload that then shows up on Microsoft Fabric side by side our first-party workloads. So you all have heard about Fabric a lot. We recently came out of our FabCon, but I just wanted to, remind you all of what is the value of the platform and where our partner workloads or custom workloads that you build come in, bringing together, bringing up what we call as the ecosystem play. So our platform is something that supports like open data formats. We have full support for Delta. Iceberg is now in public preview. Open APIs, open interfaces, and that allows you to connect to, endpoints that, will interact with REST APIs, and you will be able to seamlessly bring in data external to, Fabric, and that gives you the flexibility to build custom applications. On the platform, you can take full advantage of the AI capabilities that, we are shipping with the platform. Data is in one lake, so you'll just see the beauty of, the 1P workloads and 3P workloads running on top of your data in one lake. Last but not the least, you have, a one lake catalog and purview integration that allows you to take advantage of the governance that is, universal to the platform. We have three core, integration options that we have available on the platform, but today our focus is going to be on how to build a workload, and, we will show you how you can take our SDK and start to build out a workload. There are really three core steps. Again, the focus today is going to be how do you develop locally, but obviously, you will have to publish it to the cloud as a SaaS application that is integrated on, Fabric, and then you have the ability to monetize your workload when you, publish a transactable offer on Azure Marketplace. A quick overview of, what WDK or the Workload Development Kit architecture looks like. I'm not going to drain this because you will see Richin, going through each step. It has, this view currently is the, the developer machine, the dev machine. It's a local instance that you have to set up. The key thing that I want to point out here is we've got, the back end, the front end of your own application. It interacts using the public APIs with Fabric. The dev gateway is an Azure relay that allows you to have your own local backend be able to communicate with the Fabric backend while you're in dev mode. The one shift from when you're ready to publish to the cloud is you do not need, the Azure relay or the, dev gateway. You just basically publish it. You have your workload registered on the Fabric platform, and then it gets published and is available to all our customers that they can then, add to their tenant, purchase it, and, we'll see that in action a little later after you learn how to build the workload. So with that, I will hand it over to Richin, who will actually take you through the steps of building the workload.
Thank you, Madhu. Can you all hear me? Okay, demo time. So I want to show you how you can quickly get started building an end-to-end experience in Fabric using the Workload Development Kit. So what you are seeing here is the official sample that comes as part of the Workload Development Kit. Here we have two applications. If you go back, if you remember the architecture diagram, there were two apps running locally on your dev box in your environment, the backend and the front end. So as part of the sample, the backend is C# based and the front end is React based. So it's state of the art, but we also have REST APIs in case you want to use other languages. So to get the sample working, you first have to go through some prerequisites. I just want to call out a few. So within the documentation, there's a page on how to set up your environment. The very first thing is you need to have your own Fabric tenant. If you don't have one, you can get one. There's a free trial for 60 days, pretty beefy capacity that you can use for 60 days, and that can get you to run this sample. Once you have that, the next thing is to enable Fabric in developer mode. So the way to do that is you go to the Fabric portal, go to settings, and if you go to the developer settings, there's a toggle there for developer mode. What this basically does is it primes, it sets up your Fabric environment to talk to a dev box. So I'll actually show an application running locally on my machine that will be rendered within Fabric public URL. So this is one step of setting that end-to-end tunnel. The other step is to have the dev gateway that Madhu talked about, that you saw in the architecture diagram. Dev gateway basically creates a secure tunnel between your dev box and the Fabric backend, so that the communication can flow securely. The dev gateway comes in two flavors, an exe format for Windows, and there's a Docker container as well that you can use on other platforms. And lastly, as part of the setup, the communication from Fabric backend and the dev box, it's all flowing securely through the entire application, the authorization authentication. So what we have provided as part of the sample is an Entra app that you can, is a script that you can run to create an Entra app. Let me actually show you what that app contains. So this is the Entra application that you will find within the Fabric portal, within the Azure portal. And as you can see, there are certain scopes that you are adding to this application as part of the workload. And these permissions will look different for your own workload, but typically you will add read-write permission on Lakehouse. One of the important ones here is the Fabric extend. That's the scope that you need to add in order for your application to natively extend Fabric. One other important call out here is the client IDs that you need to add for the authorization section. This is the client ID of Fabric backend and Fabric frontend Power BI service that you're adding to your Entra app. So what this means is that you're authorizing Fabric backend to talk to your dev box via the client application. All right, so let's just go through the code. So I have checked out everything on my local machine. I've cloned the repo. Here you can see again the same folders, the front end, back end, and the tools folder that contains the dev gateway. So I'll first quickly start my backend. And so backend is responsible for managing the item lifecycle. So as you're creating items as part of a workload within Fabric, the backend is responsible for managing that lifecycle. So I just started the backend, and in the command prompt here, I will start the front end. Let me make the font bigger. But anyways, what I actually wanted to show, and again, this is the demo time, and it's not working. But if that would have worked, I would have started a front end server. You will actually see within the workload hub the sample workload loading, and once so we provide some playgrounds here through which you can try out the UI functions, and you can also try out some of the data functions on. So this basically explains to you how you can call the SDK in a much more friendlier manner. One other aspect of this is if I go back to my workspace, which is right here, I can then say create a new item, and I can create a sample item. And I think what I also missed in the process, because I had error, is I forgot to start my dev gateway. So let me actually start that using Docker Compose Up. And while this is starting up, should just talk about the manifest that Madhu talked about in the architecture diagram. So as I'm starting my dev gateway, it's basically taking my manifest file, which contains these details. It basically tells it what workspace I'm coming from, where is my NuGet package file, what is the endpoint of my workspace, of my workload running locally, and also the resource ID of the Entra application that I showed earlier. So once you have all that, you can actually go to the Fabric UI and create a new item. So if I do the sample item, again, it's not running because of the same issue. But but we have a backup. Why don't Madhu, you show how we can create an item through Workload Hub, through a production workload?
Yeah, thank you. And so what I'll do is just kind of roll forward. Once the application is built, it's packaged, the NuGet package is uploaded and published into, the cloud version of the platform. It's registered with Fabric. We see the different workloads that, have been built so far. And as I was just talking about, or Richin was talking about that, each of the partners that we have onboarded today have published their workloads on, the platform. So I'll just take one example of, the Teradata workload, and I'll show you how they have packaged the capabilities that they wanted to bring to customers that the customers can use by, using our 1P offerings and our 3P offerings to work side by side, like where they complement each other. So when I select the workload, as you all know, if you're familiar using Fabric, that we have to have assigned capacities to be able to use any of the capability, 1P or 3P within, Fabric. So I assume that we have a capacity already set up. So I'm going to jump straight to my workspace. So in my workspace, I'm going to now create a new item, because now this Teradata workload has, items that they have packaged inside their workload. And let's see what are the items that they have available. So as you can see here, that in my favorites, I have a AI Unlimited notebook, which is a Teradata notebook. Now, I'm going to create a new item. So as you heard Richin say, that an item is what you use. It's the interaction of an item with the data that is the core to how, Fabric works, right? So in this case, I'm instantiating a new instance of the notebook item. And so I'm just going to create a test item here. And let's just create this, right? So as this is getting created, you can see that, and I'll talk about this at the end, but here are the different, Teradata items that we have, but they're all different instances of a notebook. They have packaged a notebook item essentially as part of their workload, but you can see that the capabilities are the ability to import an external notebook. This notebook fundamentally is running using Python or their own SQL. So if I just go to new AI notebook, you can see that I have the option to change between, Python and SQL. And when I say SQL, it says you have now switched to the Teradata version of the SQL. So this kind of ties back to the, the foundations of extending Fabric as a platform. Now, really quickly, another thing I wanted to show you is here is a sample notebook that they have shipped, which basically gives the customer a starting point to use some of their built-in database functions, as they call it, to get, a view of a deep dive into a financial, analysis of a customer's journey. Now, on the left-hand side, you can see that there are a number of in-database functions that they have shipped. This is available as part of their workload once you, purchase the licenses to this workload and add the workload to your tenant. So starting from data preparation to data engineering, there is IntelliSense built into the notebooks that you can call these in-database functions automatically, and it will all run on top of your data in one lake. We don't have the time, but we also had a demo where the customer can connect to their data that is externally stored in ADLS Gen 2 that they can connect to via a shortcut, and the notebook will seamlessly read the data from there and be able to use the same database functions. Last but not the least, before we wrap up, you can see on the far right corner, there is an upgrade button. What it essentially does is it allows you as a customer to test the workload, give feedback to the partner on, the capabilities, what's missing, what's good, what's available. But then at the end of it, once you, submit it, let's just say that, it's all good. Did you like it? Yes, no comments. And then now I have the ability to submit this, right? When I send feedback, when I actually send feedback, it asks me, am I interested in an upgrade, and takes me to to Azure Marketplace. In Azure Marketplace, I have the ability to create, this is set up in a way that you create an offer and then it connects it back to your subscription and then starts the billing process, and you have the ability to use the workload. Where their backend is hosted in Azure, it completely controls, how much compute is being consumed, etc. But then at the end of it, you're able to use a workload side by side all of our first-party workloads.
Alrighty, let's show one last slide here.
With that, we would, like to say thank you for your time. We've got the developer resources are here. I think the deck's going to be available, right, to everyone. And so you should be able to start building your custom workloads and, bring it to Fabric.
And we're going to hang out here if you have any questions.
We are here for any questions. Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. Everyone give a round of applause for Madhu and Richin, please.